Hello, hello. At first, my apologies, guys. I won't be talking too much because my voice, as you can hear, is almost non-existent. So I'll be more on the quiet side this time.
No worries. No worries.
All good.
Yeah. So
Did you get to finish it in time, Sasha? Because you still had to read it.
yeah, I finished it yesterday. So yesterday I read like 4 stories, like 4 short stories. I had like 2 before, but I read them in no time, so that's good. I wasn't stressed about it.
That's great.
At least you managed.
Hmm?
At least you managed.
Yeah, I did.
That's good.
You did
For
finish
me,
it.
it was a nightmare. It took me the entire month of March to finish it. It was a nightmare for me. It was such a chore. And now I've only got like 2 chapters left of Blood of Elves, so
Okay, so do you wanna like straight go into the rating, like shortly? How did you rate it? Did you enjoy it or not? Like before going into details, because Naomi, you had a hard time finishing it.
yeah, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. I think it mainly was due to the plot more than the characters and everything. I think the plot of the short stories weren't really my cup of tea compared to the sort of Destiny. I thought the first one was like so dredging, like it kept on going and going and going for me. The second one, I really loved the confrontation between the 2 male characters. We know when we know. I liked their way of communicating. I thought it was quite funny, and that helped me get through that one. And I didn't really feel for the other characters from the third and fourth story, I believe. But like the ones where our main protagonists are coming together, like the final 2 stories, I really enjoyed, so that made up for it. But it still was only like 2.5 stars for me, in contrary to the first book, which was a 4.5 for me. So yeah, I was a little shocked and disappointed.
Wow.
It was a bad read.
What?
You didn't like it?
No. I would have DNF'd it if it wasn't for the live show.
Honestly, my sister, I've been talking to my sister today, and she said that she DNF'd the series, and she said I should not read it because I'm going to hate it because it just goes downhill. I'm nervous now.
Oh my. I mean, I think that like sort of Destiny. I mean, like all 6 short stories. I prefer them to the first one. I prefer this book to the first book because
Same.
I felt like the first one we really focused like mainly on the character and kind of discovering the world. But here we had retelling of the Little Mermaid. We had a retelling of the Swan. We had so many like we met so many like creatures, and I feel like the core of the fantasy world that I really actually enjoyed. And also I feel like everything happened pretty much at the same time except for the last story that happened like a few years like later, whatever. And I enjoyed that consistency. I really connected more to this one.
Interesting.
Sasha, same. I liked it more than the first one. Except like the first and second story. Those 2 were a little bit meh, but then it picked up.
I get
Yeah.
that.
What about you, Dasha? You're Naomi sad?
Like overall, I think I preferred the short story collection in terms of the consistency. I think all of them were about at the same level for me. And I found in Sword of Destiny there was some that were like 5, 6, 10 stars. Like the third one, I was literally laughing out loud the whole time. It was so good. And the one where he meets Ciri for the first time, like I was just loving it. But I found some of them were kind of more misses for me overall. And I just felt like you can see I brought all my books out because like I have like Last Wish, which is, oh gosh, you can't see. Last Wish is super tabbed.
Yeah.
Same with Blood of Elves, which I've already read. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, I read the whole thing. And then like Sword of Destiny has 2. I just like I didn't connect to it as much. But overall it was still 4-star for me. It was like on the lower end. but because of those really good stories, I still loved it. I don't know.
I would have rated it 3 stars were it not for the ending and for some parts of the book that I enjoyed. I did not like the philosophical undertones. Like
Oh, I loved it.
some
That's
of
the only,
the
those were like my redeeming points. A little bit.
That's what
some of the paragraphs made no sense, and I didn't know what was happening half the time. And you know what was my salvation? I actually went on the Witcher wiki and I read the stories and just the summary just to see if I, understood it right.
Mm,
Yeah.
makes sense.
I remember asking you, Marianne, after the second story, like, what the heck do they mean here? But I actually really like that about a book, that you can discuss little phrases if you don't fully comprehend them, and then appreciate the beauty of it.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot more in this one to like unpack because it was less plot heavy and more heavy on everything else and like relationships and Geralt's character. Honestly, the more this goes on, the more I'm like, honestly, I don't even need Geralt in the story anymore.
Yeah,
Everyone else is just so good.
I know. I saw you say that on your wrap up. Like in your wrap up, you said that the women are also like more of the focus. And I genuinely just agree. I love that Geralt, even though he's the main character, he doesn't really stand out that much or overpowers the story. Each character, I feel like, has their own personality and they each play a part in the story, and it's they stand out in their own ways, and I find that really perfect.
Mhm.
Big time.
But I disliked Yennefer in the second story.
I disliked her in this book, like compared to the first one.
Me
I-
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too. But I really like the connection between Istrid and Geralt. Like how they're like somewhat fighting for Yen. I really like that. Like the way they were like bickering and like, yeah, I really enjoyed those were the little bits that were actually redeeming for me for the book.
I love the kid, Siri. Like,
Yeah.
I loved her. I loved
Mhm.
reading about her, and I love that ending. So, yeah.
I love that as soon as she appeared on page, you could tell exactly what kind of person she was and how she was going to be. And it was
Yeah.
just so like, I don't know, I felt like I already loved her the second she got on page. I'm like, you're going to be a good time. Like, you're something special. And I can tell, even if the author doesn't have to tell us that she's special, you can just see by the way that she acts, kind of. I don't know. I really loved their introduction.
I especially had that also with a little spoiler alert with Blood of Elves. Like the moment she was in, it's like, yes, you go, girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Mariana, are you going to say something?
Yeah, when speaking of like characters and stuff and we were talking about Yen, what about Essie? That was interesting.
I couldn't like figure out what to make of her because I kind of liked her, but then I was like, you could do better than Geralt.
I know.
Yeah,
But
the way
still.
to open her heart and this guy like talk to him, I was like, oh my gosh, are you that desperate? Like, no, but not like in a mean way, but like very like internally, are you like that desperate? Are you that in love? Are you like, I don't know. It was like for me a bit too much because on the other side you have Jennifer, which is like they're completely different or whatever. So I was not expecting that particular scene. But it's not that I dislike her or anything. I just
In,
didn't
the,
understand
in
it.
that case, I'm so happy that Dandelion is actually the womanizer and not Geralt.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes it so funny for him to be as a sidekick.
But he doesn't even want to sleep with her. He's like, I see her as a little sister. Like, don't look at her the wrong way or I'll fight you. And I was like, of all people, her.
Yeah.
She has
I
no
find
problem
it
with anyone else.
really interesting. I mean, not interesting. I find it really, I really like that Geralt had someone in this book, even if it's for one story, just because we didn't get to see Yennefer that much, and when we did, it was not really that romance heavy. This book had a lot, everything else but romance, and especially with Yennefer being just dislikable to me. I really like that Geralt had even, you know, a story just with a little bit different. It's a little bit more interesting.
I agree.
What about the writing? What did you think of the writing?
I mean, I found it easier than the first one, maybe because I got used to it. I don't know.
I thought it was super like unmemorable. I picked up the book and I was like, I don't remember. Like I had to look at the titles and flip through the stories to remember what I even read.
Yeah, me too. I had to do it all on audiobook or I wouldn't even get through it. And I forget so much while doing an audiobook. Then I'm like, okay, yeah, I know I read it, but I don't know about the details anymore. Like, not too many.
It's like the opposite for me. Like I haven't been able to read a book while I wasn't listening to the other book. So I needed both to actually focus. And this one, I just read it. I did not listen to it. I was so into everything. That's funny.
I read it and listened to it both at the same time, and I dislike the narrator so much. So much. Because I don't know, just the way he narrates women is bothersome to me, but also he just has this thing where some parts are so fast and the other ones are so slow, and with dialogue there are, you know, just little bits of silence, and you just I keep needing to speed it up or slow it down, and it's not ideal.
No, I've been using the audiobooks on YouTube and also with Blood of Elves to get through it easier. They put on the music from the Wild Hunt on the background, and it is actually amazing when they do that.
I love the Wild Hunt soundtrack. I've already finished it though.
You can try it for like a few minutes. If you like it, you can go read it. But I just put it on YouTube. Not even like it's accessible for everyone.
Huh. I don't know that.
I haven't played the games in so long. I really want to.
I still think it was the best way to get into this, honestly, especially with Blood of Elves, which is super political. Like Sword of Destiny was nice because it was super character focused. Like even if you didn't play the game, you can kind of tell what kind of character everyone is.
Yeah.
But then like when I got to Blood of Elves, it was so political towards the end that if I hadn't played the games, I probably would have been lost.
But I feel like this one was a bit more political than the first one. Or was it just me?
You got to see more of the outside world for sure.
Yeah.
You're right.
So I feel like it's perfect to actually read that one before getting into Blood of Elves because you get like some bits of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you're also. What do you girls think about this one, the Dragon Story?
I hated it.
No!
I hated it as well. It was so bad.
I'm like, for dragons, how is this boring?
I almost DNF'd the entire book right then and there. But you know what? The only thing that got me through it, keep in mind, this first story I reread actually, because I started reading Sword of Destiny in January, and then I put it down when The Witcher Along was announced. And, you know, I waited. And so basically this was a reread. And the only thing that got me through it was the fact that this story is adapted in the series. And I like that in the series. It's easier for me.
I liked the bits at the bar, and then it ended. Then I was like, "Wait, when is this over? Let's keep on swapping the pages." It was terrible.
I mean, it can't get any worse from there. No offense, Sasha. Why did you like it?
I don't know. I was into it. Like I loved the pacing. I loved what was going on. I wasn't expecting anything. I loved how at one point there was like a gentleman dueling or whatever. Like I what did I wrote? Like I wrote like I took notes or whatever. I don't know. But what I really liked through like all the stories was actually, you know, you said like it was a bit philosophical or whatever, but I loved getting like into the Witcher's head, being like, no, that creature is smart, I cannot kill it, you know, getting into that like his head and his rules and whatever, even if very like this, like he doesn't move like outside of that box, let's say. I really enjoyed like reading about that. So I feel that's why I loved it with the dragon as well, because he was like, no, that dragon doesn't exist. I know what exists. I know what doesn't exist. And when it happened, etc., etc. Like, I don't know. I just really enjoyed everything, especially because it was focused on creatures and mist and like everything else. And that's something that I really love. So I feel that's why I connected to it. And also like tiny details like Novigrad. Like when I saw Novigrad, I was like, okay, that's like Slavic. I'm in. so, so maybe that's why. I don't know. I don't know.
What I feel like works very well with this book, or just in the Witcher series, is that even though Geralt is a killer and a monster hunter and perceived by everybody as being, a monster himself, he is also very just, and he doesn't always take the coin, just, take any job. He doesn't kill unless, he needs to. And if the creature deserves it, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something that I can actually relate, like maybe as a Libra or whatever, but I love when things are fair, and that's it. And I love that. And I love
I love
that.
my mischief in a book. Like the cheeky mischief. I love it.
Yeah. We saw that in the fourth story with the mermaid. I really, really like that when he's like, this is something I'm not touching with a 10-foot pole. We don't know what's down there, and I don't want to deal with them, and you shouldn't either. And he's like, if you're going to do this, I'm out. I'm not even going to like bother with you because you're hopeless. And I really like seeing his reasoning behind that, because he like fought them face to face, and he could have said, well, like, yeah, like, let me just gather a few extra people and go. And he's like, I'm not touching that. No, ma'am. I'm walking away politely, and I'm not dealing with this. Because like I felt like it's also relatable, because if you know anything about the ocean, you don't know anything about the ocean, right? Like we don't know shit. And they even mentioned that like the ocean is not our domain. Let's not go there. And I was like, I like that. Very like it's a very modern way of thinking still, even though it's transposed into this like medieval era book.
Yeah.
I also liked how, even though like Geralt is very just, but then Yennefer is kind of morally gray, I feel like. And so it's kind of like a balance. You never get bored. Plus, their scenes together are interesting. Yeah.
Even though we got a lot less of her, I feel like in this
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
And like you all said, like she was a lot more unlikable in this one. But she
But-
does make it interesting.
Yeah, maybe she was less likable because we didn't read that much about her, so we had time to actually connect to other characters.
What do you girls think about the dwarves, though?
They're interesting.
I hated them. I was like,
what did you like?
it would have been a DNF for me, so I didn't really like it. I liked the banter with Dandelion and Geralt. I liked the mermaid stories, bits of it. I loved Ciri. I loved Mausak. And that's very dense. For this one, I loved Blood of Elves so far, so and only 2 chapters left to go. So.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, like as much as I enjoyed this one more than the first one, I cannot wait to actually have a plot and to read a novel compared to the short stories. Like I need Blood of Elves. Like I need something like.
I got a little bit of bad news for you. Blood of Elves is not plot heavy at all.
It is more of a story, though.
It is like linear, yeah. But like it's really like there's long training montages and discussions. There's a whole like I think it's like a full chapter of a bunch of kings meeting to talk. Like it's slow.
And also to have a huge like world building, etc., like for a long series, like high fantasy. So it makes sense. It just made me weird.
It is heavy on the world building, especially at the beginning. But you need it.
Yeah.
That's what the games do so well, the world building, getting introduced to the world. So that's why I personally am really glad that I played the games before reading this, even though it's been years and I forgot half of it.
100%. 100%. What would you say was your favorite story then? Because like Sasha, you seem to have loved all of it. Naomi, you seem to like none of it. Like if you had to pick one.
Wait, Sword of Destiny is Brokilon, right? It's in the Brokilon forest.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
the
wait, a
second
little
to last
sacrifice.
story, I think.
A little sacrifice is the mermaid, and Eternal Flame is the
Novigrad.
doppelganger.
Yeah.
I think I liked Eternal Flame the most. I think.
Oh my god, that's the story where I was hoping like, yeah, they're saying that it's getting better. I'm like, no, it's getting worse. And then you had the scenes with Syria Mausek, and I was like, okay, it's redeeming itself.
So would
I
you say
think
the
that-
story with Siri was your favorite?
Yeah, the final two ones actually. It's a little in between.
Fair enough.
I didn't like the final one except for the ending when it's the reunion. I think that's what makes the final one so good, but I wouldn't say the entire story is good.
I forgot the last one.
I personally believe it isn't that slow to read for me personally, for Blood of Elves, that it is faster, but it's still world building, like heavy on the world building, but it doesn't read like extremely slow or something. At least that's my experience with it so far.
I think it helps that it's linear.
Yeah.
It's one main plot line, and you're just seeing different characters along the same plot line rather than like 5 different ones. So that helps make it a little less slow for sure.
Dasha, you said you forgot what the last one was about. It's about a Geralt who got hurt, and then you see little glimpses and pieces, and about the battle that went on, and then his conversation with Death. Was that Death? I don't know what it was. When he saw on the tombstone the names, and Triss was there, and I was like, "Oh."
I think I blocked it out because I hate like dream sequences
Yeah.
or any kind of like I'm sick and I'm like, or I'm dying and I'm having flash. I usually hate those, so I think that's why I blocked it out.
Yeah, no, the only reason why I remember is because I reread from the wiki. But like I said, that's why I don't like the last one, because it's just a bunch of shorter stories put together. But what redeems it is the fact that we got, in the end, the reunion.
Yeah, that was pretty, like, very moving in a way. Like, if you imagine to be Siri, again, like, it's a little double as well. Like, you get why she's so driven towards Geralt, but at the same time, I also get Geralt being like, oh, no, what's destiny? It's not my cup of tea, you know? So I actually really like that connection between the two in the final story, that they still went on together.
Yeah.
That was the right note to finish on.
Yeah.
What's your least favorite story?
I'm not gonna answer because that's most of them.
But if you
Shard
had
of
to-
Ice.
Same.
I didn't
With
see the
me,
need for that.
I think the first one or the Eternal Flame one.
Yeah, I think the Shard of
I
Ice.
think with the Eternal Flame one, there were too many characters, I think, to keep me focused, to get through it.
It was a lot of
Like,
finances.
and then I was dragging through it. But I love the dandelion bits. So, yeah. But it was
I
my
just thought
least
it was so like it read like you could see it happening in your head. Like some of the moments were so cinematic. I thought they would have made for like great TV. And I obviously the banter, like you mentioned, like Dandelion and Geralt. I literally there's a moment where someone's like, your fiance's here, there could be trouble. And he's like, fiance, which one? I have several. I literally started losing it because I was like, that is the most Dandelion thing I could think of.
Yeah. He's, for me, really redeeming the book in those stories for me.
That's fair.
Sasha, what about you?
My least favorite was A Shard of Ice. Yeah, but we're all 4 stars, so it doesn't anything. But yeah, that one was my least favorite. And then like my favorites were Eternal Flames and A Little Sacrifice. So yeah. I
That's
love,
amazing.
like, in Little Sacrifice, also, like, the dialogues between the mermaid and Geralt, and how, like, we had expressions like, tell him to dry up, and then Geralt translated, yeah, drown yourself, whatever. Like, I love those little moments.
Mhm. It's times like that you see how wise Geralt is and how much he's learned, even though you kind of, I mean, he's like, he kind of seems like a himbo in the games a little bit, but at least like in the book, you can see he's actually like incredibly intelligent. He's just kind of emotionally stunted.
He's very calm, like, very, like, I don't know,
doesn't care, but just
analyzes always everything, and just, like,
Very go with the flow.
Mhm.
I feel like
like,
come what may.
He knows how he sees the world and he sticks to
Phlegmatic.
it. Yeah,
That's what I was looking for. Phlegmatic.
that's a good way to put it.
yeah.
Yeah, I've hardly slept with my readathon, so my words are really, gone. Just like my voice.
Good.
Dasha, you were saying how you tabbed your books, right? Were you talking? Yeah. Look, I also started tabbing
Wow.
because I felt like for the last book, even though I read it in the same month, I forgot a lot of stuff. And then it was like when I started rewatching the Witcher TV show, I just reminded myself, oh my God, how did I not remember this when we were having the live show? So this time around, I made sure to tab everything and, go back and reread a few scenes just because I was so sure that I'm going to forget. Because, when you're live, I don't know, I forget everything.
In that
Nervous.
case, Mariana really tapped with Blood of Elves because it's quite different from the second season. There are similarities, but it's completely different at the same time.
I already read the first chapter, so I'm reading one chapter a day. I hope I don't DNF it, because if I DNF it, I'm not gonna read the rest of the series.
If I could say, you should at least read through Blood of Elves in its entirety before deciding to DNF, because I think this book has everything that what I think makes the series so good, like the franchise so good. There's scenes with Ciri and Yennefer, and like there's so much good character stuff, and the political stuff will be intriguing enough. But if it's not, I feel like at that point you can maybe decide if you want to DNF. But I feel like this one would be worth reading in its entirety, in my opinion.
Okay, I'll
Because
keep that in
Larissa
mind.
already seems scared among Mariana. Huh? That's really...
It's an intimidating book. It's thick. Okay,
I flew through it in a few days. It was a really easy read.
I started it, yesterday, I believe, and I'm almost finished, like 2 chapters away from finishing it, so I literally
And
flew
Naomi,
through
you're
it.
quite a slow reader.
I'm an incredibly slow reader. With
So
me, it's like
that's
30
nice.
pages tops an hour, so yeah, I really kept on flying through.
That's nice. I want to read it now. I mean,
Sasha,
I'm intrigued.
I can wait for you. If you want, we can read one chapter a day.
But
Or
how?
like 50 pages.
It's 50 pages a day? No,
I mean,
one chapter is not 50 pages.
Yeah,
right?
the first chapter is 50 pages. The second one is 100, and then I think the rest are just like 50.
Yeah, there are only 7 chapters. Or 8.
Yeah.
7 or 8, so...
Yeah, we can do that. Those are long chapters.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, but then again, you finish it and then you're done. Like 50 pages a day or 100 pages, that's doable, I mean, at least for me. I'm not sure.
There's a chunk
Yeah,
of
for me,
chapter
could
2
you-
that's literally all dialogue.
Okay.
Yeah, chapter 2 is the longest.
Yeah.
It's got like training montages, and it's just Ciri talking to people, and like
I love
It's-
that chapter. I love that one. It
I
was
loved
so
it so
funny.
much.
It was so funny.
I feel like this is turning into a Blood of Elves discussion.
Yeah. I mean, spoiler alert, you enjoyed it, so.
I feel bad. That was my favorite so far, but I think it's because I think what happened for me was at the end of Sword of Destiny. Now that we're talking about it, like the ending was so good that I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, this was great. Okay, let's move on. And then I just completely forgot Sword of Destiny, except for the stories I liked.
Yeah,
And
no,
with me, it was quite the opposite. I was like, Sword of Destiny is so, bad. At least it was my lowest rated from the two. And I was like, now I'm really curious what the novels are going to do. So I need to get started on the novel. And so far, I'm loving it. So
That's good.
See, I think I forgot the entirety of The Last Wish, and I read it twice.
where I think short stories are more forgettable for me as well.
I feel like short stories are forgettable for some reason. Like whatever the series you're rating it for, I feel like it's normal because you don't connect it to a line, timeline, etc. So I feel like it's normal. I'm reading the notes I took because I had thoughts, but
Sasha, you said that you are looking forward to something that has a little bit more plot and is like a genuine actual story. Well, when I finished Sword of Destiny, I was actually kind of sad that we don't have the rest of the short stories because I just got used to this format now.
yeah.
I'm happy it's over.
Honestly, me too.
No, what I like about short stories now is the fact that they're so short that if you don't like one, it changes really fast. But here, if you don't like the book, you still have 200 more pages to go.
But it jumps between perspectives so often that if you don't like one, you're still getting to see the plot in action, but through different characters' eyes, even though like sometimes series barely involved, sometimes you're just following Dandelion and like it's connected to the plot, but you're just getting it from his perspective. So you get a little bit less bored than if it was just like one character the whole time.
Mm.
With me, it was almost like the first chapter I read over the course of a week. And I was like, I'm never going to finish in time. And then it was like Shard of Ice, I think the second one is. Read it within a matter of hours. Then the third one, it was like over the time of a week again. So I was like, I'm never going to finish this bloody book in time. But I did, so.
Well,
some were definitely slower. Sorry, I think I cut someone off.
I just said well done. You did it, Naomi. You did it.
Well, if I were in Sasha's case, if she is doing her April TBR and it still had to go on there, I would have been screwed, to say the least.
I found that like one thing that I found throughout all the stories that I really liked was the group dynamics. Like even though it was Geralt and maybe a familiar character with a bunch of different people, I felt like there was still a really good dynamic between everyone, even if you don't like the characters or there was too many, because I also sometimes forgot who was who. But I'm like, you know what? I'm enjoying watching you all just communicate and figure stuff out together, even in the stories I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like my approach this time was not trying to understand everything and, dwelling on every single meaning of the sentence, but just going along and, connecting between the lines and, connecting the dots as we go.
Yeah, I think that's why I also enjoyed this one more than the first one. The first one, I was like trying to absorb all the information, trying to make mind maps with all the connections between everything or whatever. And this one, I just it was like a chill adventure, walking with almost with friends and just listening to their conversations and being nice and then cheeky. And then, I really enjoyed, as you said, the dynamic between the characters. And also, I feel like through their conversations, we also got a lot of information that didn't feel dumb, dumb. And I also enjoy that because it's always a nice way to actually get an introduction to something and to absorb the information without feeling like you're learning something new. So that's also something that worked for me.
100%. I found that it's nice because you get the information about the world, but you also get it with that character's like perspective. So like the
Yeah.
dwarves see the world a certain way, but not everyone does. And I found that just made it feel so much more real. Like I find this world is so immersive for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt very like relatable because someone can be, oh yeah, there is a tree, and the other one will see the tree as like something very majestic, whatever. And that's how you say like seeing the same thing from different person with their perspective, point of view, whatever, was like richer in some way, like made the story richer. And yeah.
I just wish we had a map in every book.
I know.
Mm,
I
It would be
love
so
maps.
much easier to understand.
yeah.
I found this like I found like a physical map on Etsy that someone made of like what the world would look like, and it was beautiful and illustrated. And I'm like, honestly, I would buy it just so I could have something to reference. But it's
Yeah.
also like a piece of art because the world is massive. It is
Yeah.
unbelievable how big it is.
Mm,
It's
Like,
hard to
in my head
like
there
keep
are
track.
like pieces everywhere. Like I think there will be there, and there will be there, and then they're talking about some places up north, and in my head it's down south, and it's so confusing.
Plus, every single place has its own culture and its own like creatures, and it feels like a real world, and like this is actually happening, and it's actually we live in this world. It feels very tangible. Is
Yeah.
that the word? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the right word for it. Does anyone know, like going off that, does anyone know if this was like the Nilfgaardian invasion, for example, if that is based off some sort of real historical event? Because I'm pretty sure the author draws from Polish history,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know any specifics. Do any of you know?
I'm not familiar with Polish history, so I can't tell.
I'm looking on Google.
Because it might be.
Because like when I played the game, obviously like you hear like Nilfgaardians talk, for example, and I'm like, that sounds like a bastardized German, so maybe they're based on German. And then obviously Toussaint is like French, so I'm like, okay, so maybe there's some kind of like is it just inspired by, or is there some real events?
I can't tell yet. Maybe if we progress further in the story and get
Mhm.
more world building around it about the other regions and everything,
Yeah.
that will be more visible for us to actually pinpoint stuff. But I've no idea.
Yeah. I was just curious because I like being able to tie it to
Yeah.
other things. Like it's always interesting. But I mean, at the same time, it's so like imaginative on its own that you don't really need to know what it's based on. I'm just nosy and I like history a lot, so I was curious.
No,
Me
it
too,
would be
but I'm
cool
bad
to
at remembering.
know if it's related to something or not, or if he completely made up that.
Hmm.
I honestly don't know. I didn't look into it. And I don't know if Mariana is finding.
Well, I can tell you that Nilfgaard is apparently inspired by Roman Empire, but then I found an article that says that it also was inspired by Holocaust and all that history. But I'm trying to see if there is a sentence that I can read to you where it specifically says that.
That makes sense actually, because the dwarves called a genocide that they lived through a pogrom.
Yeah.
Was that in this book, or am I skipping ahead? Because I'm pretty sure it was in Sword of Destiny, and I remember that, and I was like, "Hey, that's a real term."
Now I'm doubting as well because I just had the part of Blood of Elves with the dwarves, so now I'm not sure either which one it was.
You know
in.
what? I think it was in Blood of Elves actually, but I think it was mentioned in either Last Wish or Sword of Destiny too. Like that term has been used before, and I was like, okay, so there's probably some kind of basis.
Yeah.
Because I also noticed that in The Last Wish, during one of the short stories, the author was making a commentary on what I read it as indigenous communities, because the elves were talking about how, we shouldn't have to assimilate. We were here first. What are you talking about? And I was like, that's actually a really interesting analogy. So I wonder if he brings in a lot of those like real life issues.
True.
Maybe.
Well, as far as I can tell, there's a lot of history, a lot of commentary based on other events. It's a lot. So I think the author just drew inspiration from all of these events that happened, but there is no specific one that I can point out right now.
Yeah, I feel like it might not be Polish to start.
No, Poland was referenced several times. Also, Czechoslovakia was referenced, and Germany,
Yeah,
and
Germany. Yeah.
Russia. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. But I mean, the Polish Empire was huge at some point, so he might have been drawing off how like there might have been infighting between them for all I know. I don't know. Anyways, it was a bit of a tangent, but I was just curious because there's so
No,
many
it's
things that I can
interesting.
kind of recognize, but not
Mm.
quite.
That's usually
Can
what
we-
I like about fantasy stories. They take like bits and pieces from different wars and put them together to create their own story.
Mhm.
Can we just talk about the fact that they're filming The Witcher 3 in Slovenia? I'm gonna freak out.
Is it far from you?
45 minutes away. First,
Wait.
they filmed in the mountains, Kranjska Gora, and then they started filming. They moved down south. I think they're filming in Postojna now, and basically you have this castle, which is it's called Predjama Castle, and
Mhm.
basically it's a castle built in front of a cave. So if you see that in The Witcher 3, a castle in front of a cave, Slovenia.
I wonder if they'll be using that as Kaer Morhen.
Yeah, I was also thinking that if I get the views from the pictures, I'm thinking Kaer Morhen as well.
I'm gonna freak out. That's my favorite place in the Witcher books.
Because
And
it's supposed to be
in the Blood of Elves.
built into a mountain, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Sorry, Naomi, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's also a place you delve a lot more into with Blood of Elves, and I really, really love it. And yeah, but I wouldn't recommend watching season 2 to anyone who hasn't read Blood of Elves yet. Like, stay
You said
away
there were
from
some
season
spoilers,
2.
eh?
Yeah. Like, the journey of Blood of Elves is a lot of season 2, with a little bit of Sword of Destiny in it.
I have not watched the show. I'm gonna watch when I
So
finish.
that's why I'm saying stay away from season 2.
I
Yeah.
think I might just watch the show, like one episode of the show, one chapter. So one
Oh,
chapter a
but
day.
you can watch the first episode of the second season. That's safe because that's the Niveen story from Sword of Destiny. Oh no, Lost Wish. With Niveen and Geralt with the castle with the was it no not the Striga with the vampirish girl.
Oh, that was in The Last Wish, I think.
That was in Last Wish.
Yeah, that's the first episode of the second season. So you can watch that. That's safe for you. We have read it. You can watch that one.
Naomi, now that you've read the first 3 books almost entirely, like how faithful would you say the show is to the books?
The first the Sword of Destiny, hardly anything happens from that book in the TV show. At least that's my experience. You've got like little bits and pieces, but they changed it to match series story because Blood of Elves you follow like the 3 main characters somewhat, and they're already including that in season 1. And they like intertwined it that way that it makes sense, but you might get spoiled. But on the other hand, it's also different because they have made changes to certain characters where most fans are pissed off about, and I get it now that I've read the majority of Blood of Elves.
Okay.
But yeah, bits and pieces are the only thing I'm so far missing from the book, so far I've read, is Yennefer's backstory. It is already in season 1, and I haven't seen it in the books yet, so that's something that's completely different.
I wonder if we'll see it at all in the books.
Because it's extremely good backstory for Yennefer, and it explains actually her motives quite well.
I think we might just get it in the dialogue, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or like a flashback in the books. Because so far, since Blood of Elves also already starts with Yennefer and Ciri and Geralt. I think, Yennefer is already a sorceress. That's what I mean. I think if we would just be going back in time if we got another book with Yennefer's story. So it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. But
So I think we
I'd
might
be
just get it
curious.
And
info
also
down.
with Sword of Destiny, they're like the final two stories are somewhat intertwined
Yeah.
differently. They take their own approach with it, but it's still included in the first season. And only the first story of Sword of Destiny, besides that, is used. The other stories aren't visible in seasons so far. So the Shard of Ice, you don't see that. The other ones, the Eternal Flame, you don't see that in the first two seasons.
That's a
The
shame.
Mermaid one, neither. So yeah, it's a little. I don't know if they're still going to include it somehow, but they're taking their own approach. I'm going to consider their own entities
That's
completely.
fair.
I mean,
Because I think you'll be disappointed otherwise if you don't see it as its own entity.
in some way, it kind of makes sense also to make it like a bit different, because it's going to be a long show. Not all readers want to read exactly the same thing and watch exactly the same thing. And also sometimes, like, you have to think about the fact that some people are not reading the books. So the show should make sense in its own way, and sometimes, like, even adaptation from other shows like Game of Thrones or whatever compared to the book, changes were made because it
But
just
there are
makes
like changes made to compare it to Game of Thrones, for example. You've got just take Sansa as a character. In the books and the show, she lives on. But then imagine if in the show that they kill her off in season 1. Those kind of things are happening with the series
Oh.
compared to the books.
Mhm.
So there are, Sansa's not necessarily a fan favorite character, but there are fan favorite characters from the games and the books that are being killed off early on in season 2. And people are like, what the fuck did you guys do? Like, they can't comprehend it, but I don't know how important of a character that character is yet going to be in the book, so I can't really judge that yet.
What would be interesting to know is that if they already have all the season written, so they know exactly, where everything is going. You know what I mean?
I think they
I
might
have
just
no
have
idea.
a layout of, what kind of points they want to hit in next seasons. And as they write, they just add that to the, I don't know, the wall or whatever, just to be able to reference it. Oh, that's going to happen in the next season. So we need to build that up in this season. If that makes sense. I think that's how they do it. But I don't think they write the script immediately, like for all seasons.
And apparently they also have quite a bit of a say in it, because I think Freya Allen said it, the girl who plays Ciri, that Henry Cavill walks around like a Witcher Bible, that he sometimes inserts literal phrases from the books into the series that they didn't incorporate in the script. So, like, yeah. But there is only one scene, and Tasha knows enough with it. If I say dear friend, that I'm disappointed with the dear friend in the series, now that I've read the book. That's all I'm saying, dear friend.
So you're saying it was done different in the show?
Yeah, completely.
Mm.
But
I
funny
actually
in
didn't
its
mind it in the
own,
book.
like, I liked it in the book and I liked it in the show, but it's two completely different.
Yeah,
You
I
can't
guess
like
that's
two
what we have to
different-
keep in mind. Two different things with the same core. Like the fantasy world is the same, but the rest is like different.
Yeah, that's my sister walking behind me.
No worries. Oh yeah.
So yeah. No, but yeah, there are changes compared to the TV series and the books.
Yeah. I feel like we're gonna have a way longer conversation once I'm done with Blood of Elves than with this one, because I feel like this one, even though it was different to the first one, it's just like short stories. So I don't know what to talk about, because we already talked about the characters, we've already talked about like the creatures, a bit more political, philosophical, Geralt's way of seeing things. So I feel like
So maybe what are you excited for Blood of Elves? Like, Tasha already read it, but what are you excited to see in Blood of Elves?
I don't know, actually. That's the thing. That's probably why I'm looking forward to it, because I don't know what to expect. I honestly don't know what the plot's going to be. I don't know the game. As we talked like last time, I've never played the game. I haven't played the show. I just know like everyone is talking about, and sometimes I see just snippets of it, like when I want to try like look for something on Netflix or whatever. I see just like Geralt talking to someone, but I honestly don't know. So I just want to discover the entire world. That's what I'm excited about. From the snippets that I got from the short stories, I'm intrigued by the diversity of it, and I want to also see how Slavic it is. So that's what I'm expecting.
I think the game, at least the third one, Wild Hunt, takes place after the whole main arc. So even though I've played the third, I haven't played 1 and 2, I've only played the third one, and that takes place after. So there's probably a bunch of references in the game that I missed from the story that I will be getting once I get through it. So I'm kind of in a similar boat to you, Sasha, in that even though I've played the game, it's mainly for the world and a completely different story. So I don't know where the story's going to go either.
The first one, I think, starts when Kaer Morhen is attacked, and I hadn't gotten too farther than that, but I am really excited to see the training scenes series, because that's how
They're brilliant. They're brilliant.
I
They're
love
so
that
funny.
the
They're
games,
brilliant.
because you're learning the controls and everything, and I'm so excited for that. And also that's why I love the games, because I love how every single kingdom or country has its own landscape and has its own like colors and own creatures, and it's the world is so vast in the games, and that's why I personally like The Witcher, just because of the games. Because if I just read the books, I don't think that I would, enjoy it as much without the experience of a game.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, I got
Also,
it with
they're
the TV
doing
series.
more.
Like,
No,
they really helped me envision it all. The TV show really helped me.
yeah, they're doing the fourth book of the fourth game of The Witcher.
I saw, but it's going to be a different story. So I think they're going to completely scrap Giri and Sarah. Ciri and Geralt, and go with a completely new set of characters.
But imagine the world.
I know, that's the best part, honestly. I'm very excited because I feel like, I don't know, because I played the game first, when I saw like the cast of the show, I was like, this is not what I'm imagining. Reading the book, I still see the video game in my head.
I feel like Henry Cavill is the perfect Geralt,
Yeah.
but what threw me off was Ciri in the first season. But now that she
me
has her
too.
eyebrows back in the second season, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, in the first season, she had to bleach her eyebrows, and it got so bad that she asked to actually keep her own eyebrows for the second season. But like, the second season instantly follows up on the first one, so people are like, what the
Ew.
heck did they do to Ciri?
Yeah, I
What did they
think
do
a
to her?
lot of them just thought that she had been recast because she looks
Yeah.
completely different. But it's because she
It's the
didn't
same
want
actress.
to burn off her eyebrows. I
Ew,
think she
that's
looks
such
better.
a bad look. Oh, yeah.
Because she had to, for shoots, she had to bleach them every single week. So she just said, listen, if we're gonna go at this rate, I'm not gonna have any eyebrows left. So they just allowed her to keep her own eyebrows, which I think looks better.
It makes her look more expressive, and she's a very expressive person from
Yeah.
what I get. Gaga.
I love the little scarf that she has.
Oh, she loves it. She has many colors because when I wash one, she has to have another one. Otherwise, she gets crazy. She doesn't like being without it.
And now she's enjoying a booty rub.
Yes, she is.
Then the lion would be jealous.
Also, I find it so interesting. Sasha, you might not, or maybe it's my editions because I have two different editions. But in this book, in A Sword of Destiny, Dandelion is called Dandelion,
Yeah.
but in this book, he's called Dandelion, and even in the audiobook, he reads him as Dandelion.
Oh, you mean the narrator?
Yeah, but
Oh.
also it's written as Dandelion in this book, but in this book, it's written as Dandelion.
And in Dutch, it's Ranonkel.
But I
It's
have
even
what should be the
different
same
again.
one.
This is Blood of Elves, but this is Sword of Destiny.
But this is Dandelion. I guess I have the US and Canadian version though.
Oh, I have Dandelion without the E, but it has the I.
I have Dandelion. Okay, that's weird.
Even
And
in the
Dutch is
audiobook,
Ranonkel.
it says,
It changes all the time. Like in the show, they use Jeskier, Dandelion. In Dutch, it's Ranonkel. So
I
yeah,
have
it changes everywhere. It's crazy.
like Dandelion.
Yeah, me too.
so
What's
wait, is
Dandelion?
this Blood of Elves or Sword of Destiny?
It's Sword of Destiny.
So yeah, it's Dandelion with an E in Sword of Destiny. But in my edition for Blood of Elves, it's Dandelion.
Oh, I'm curious as well.
Wait, can you tell me a page on which I should
Which one?
find the name?
Come on.
It's with an I. It's spelled with an
Oh
I in
yeah,
this one.
the I as well. They changed, but it's the same.
The
I
same
have the-
character.
Almost.
Oh, new edition.
I'm getting there. It's a bit left.
Yeah, it's a I and it's a E. But
Yeah.
Might have
Same
been
character.
consistent.
Yeah, same.
Look at Sasha, look at the dates they were published. Maybe it's just the same cover but different publishing dates.
I mean, it should be different, no? Wait,
Yeah, but like 10 years apart, let's say.
2015.
15 and 20.
Mine are all Dandelion.
Or maybe it's a different translator.
Yeah, 2015 and 2008.
Oh.
Yeah. This, I mean, obviously, this one was written before the short stories. So this one was like the first published in 2008, while the other one 2015. But they were all like both reprinted in 2020.
The short stories were actually published first, I think. I think they were both in 1993, and this was 1994. And then they, yeah.
Because here it says first published in Great Britain. Maybe that's different, like in 2008, and here it says 2015.
Yeah,
me.
it does it. I don't know.
I'm confused. Mine are all the same, so because I have like the same edition for all of them.
Yeah.
That's the only one they sell here.
Text changes sometimes.
Oh, maybe that's the translation.
So for me, it says this one has been published, the original text has been published in 1994, but the translation was published 2008 for Blood of Elves.
And the rights, like copyright, whatever, 1988.
Yeah.
93. Okay. I don't know how come they changed the spelling.
I think this one has, just for me, I don't know if it has it also for you, but a different person translating it. So there are two different translators.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, I'm sending you on a hunt.
Oh yeah, so this one was translated by David French.
Yeah, same.
And this one is Danusia Stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have different translators, but I think, you know what? I think because it's an American publisher, they have to be standard. That's my guess. Because I have different translators for them.
Yeah.
But all of them have Dandelion, and these are US and Canadian. So I'm thinking that's why mine are the same across the board. Because I haven't noticed anything weird like that.
I really like this cover.
We noticed that during other live show, we were reading like the same book. Like Valor. I don't know if you know that one.
From John Gwynne.
Yeah.
Malice, yeah.
By John Gwynne. So I have the UK edition because there is a U, but the American edition doesn't have the U. And they just, like the entire book, they took off the U from Valor, they took out the you from behavior, from so many. And I'm just like, do you have that money to just do it? But I mean, it makes sense because that's the way it's written there.
Canadians put the U in everything, so Americans always think we're spelling shit wrong. I'm like, no, we just use the British spelling. So it's like neighborhood with a U, favorite. And then when I make my video, like favorites video every time, I have to put in the tags like just an O in case Americans search it.
Yeah. I actually look into it. I don't know if you know how come there is a difference between the US one and Canadian and UK one. Why they? Because apparently when so the journalists or whatever, when they were writing papers, they had to paper letter, so they took out all the U to save money. I looked that up because I was like, why? Where is it coming from? Because that's basically like the same language, so that's why.
That's the
Smart.
most American thing I've ever heard. Makes sense though.
Yeah, it makes sense. Because you still understand, because it's exactly the same. So
Yeah.
But also, I feel like if you're a publisher and if a book has been published and the author has a lot of fans, some of those fans will try to buy, every single edition or as many as they can and just collect. So I think that's also like one of the reasons. Plus, some of them are floppy and some of them are not. So
yeah, but like
with the
all
long
three,
books as well.
like the first one is not floppy at all, and the three others are.
I used to have that with these as well. Like this is okay, but this, like,
Aren't the UK ones often not very floppy?
and these are like stiff.
I personally rarely get floppy books.
Yeah,
So I
no,
don't think that's the standard.
No, it's pretty rare. Yeah.
Same. And I
And I can't
breaking my
decide if I
spines.
like them or not.
I love it.
I hate bending the pages like this and breaking the spine.
Yeah,
If I read, I read like that at an angle.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I
Unless
love
they're
floppy.
floppy and they just fall open.
See, I like it when they're like the big size, like the I have the Wheel of Time books, and they're like large, and those are just like pure.
That's perfect.
I love that because then
Yeah.
you're not going to break the spine when reading it. You're not going to ruin anything. But then I have Robin Hobb's books, which are all like tiny little baby books,
Yeah.
and those are like
Bricks.
Yeah.
I think that's why I like hardcovers because they're just you can just set them down and just you don't have to care if you break the spine because you're not gonna break the main spine, and they also look very pretty on the shelf.
Do you guys have any hardcover Witcher books in your countries?
No,
Oh, in the country, I have no idea.
I don't
Like-
even think it's translated in Slovenian.
It is translated in Dutch, and maybe they are in Dutch, but I haven't seen any English hardcovers here.
And in
Yeah.
French, it doesn't exist. Like hardcover doesn't exist. So no.
French language books are always so I feel so bad because I'm like I want to read more in French, but they're always so small, and
Already.
like I always don't I don't want to buy them. That's such a bad reason not to.
Yeah, I know. But the thing that they've been doing lately is that they keep the same cover, which had never happened before. They keep the same cover as the English edition and the title in English. So it's so confusing because I went to the store and I went to the English section, and then I went on the other side, the French section for my mom, and the titles were in English, and I was like, no, where is it? So I opened the book and it was in French. And I
In
was like,
Dutch, there is a hardback for the series. I thought I'd seen them before, but I'm not gonna purchase them all in Dutch in hardcover when I've got my paperback English beauties.
yeah. I don't know if it has been translated into like Slovenian or like Bosniak
I
or whatever.
checked. No,
I would have
mean-
loved to read that story in any Slavic language.
I know there's just a magic to it.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
understand Polish enough to.
I personally don't like reading in Slovenian in my native language, which is why I feel like I'm better at English at this point than Slovenian. But I don't know, just something about reading Slavic books in my own language just appeals to me.
Yeah.
I'm
Because you
always hit with that dilemma.
off.
Wanting to read it because I speak Russian, but like that was my first language, but I barely speak it anymore. I consider English my first language at this point because I'm just a lot better at it. But I want to read like Russian classics in Russian, but I'm sitting there looking at them. I'm like, I'm sure they'd be so much better, but do I want to put myself through that? I don't think so.
chapter a day or a chapter a month, and you'll get
No,
there.
but maybe fairy tales, you know, like Russian tales or whatever, you know, like
Something familiar.
Snegurочка and things like that. I just love those stories, and I read them in English, but I should read them in Russian then. But yeah, just like short stories. I feel like it had
Probably the way.
a magic, yeah, because you actually like it hasn't been translated, so the words have that meaning that you just cannot translate. So yeah,
I wish they had a book of Slavic mythology, just like they have with Greek mythology or Egyptian, because I feel like it has been erased. Like a lot of the mythology, especially when the Christian religion came about, it was just, I don't know, we had so much and so many creatures, and now it's very hard to come by. What's that?
so The Sorcerer's Spring by Stefan Svetkovic. He's Serbian, and it's about South Slavic country. So it's from where we are, Mariana. So it's like
I am adding it to my TBR.
and like our stories are very dark, like very, very dark. But I love that so much. So it's really from our place, like Yugoslavia, etc. So it's really dope.
If you Google like Slavic mythology creatures, you're gonna get nightmares. Some of them are so like
They're terrifying.
I haven't read anything. Contact.
But I feel like even
they're
children's
dark.
tales are kind of dark.
Mm.
Yeah, they are, but then they don't do whatever, you know.
I think that was
You know,
maybe
I thought-
also the best part of the short stories though in The Witcher, how they incorporated fairy tales. I actually really, really like that.
Mhm.
But I feel like that was the fairy tale retellings was more prominent in The Last Wish than in this book. Or maybe
I
I'm
thought
wrong.
it was more
because for
obvious in this
book-
one.
I feel
What?
in this one.
Yeah, I
I'm
also
with you,
found this-
Mariana. I thought it was more in Last Wish.
I only think for me at least I thought there was the Little Mermaid and that's it. Or is there anything
No,
else? Maybe I didn't-
the Snow Queen, like the eye short, it was Snow Queen kind of vibe.
Oh,
And we
yeah.
had the Little Swan in
Little Swan?
yeah, the Wild Swan, the Little Swan. Wait, in which one was it? Yeah, so I feel like we had way more in this one. Like the
Okay.
Wild Swans were like a Frexinet story. No, maybe that I'm the only one.
I'm not familiar with it.
Me neither. But it felt more obvious, especially with the mermaids and everything. It felt more obvious to me.
Yeah.
Whilst in The Last Wish, the only very obvious one to me personally was Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, in the first one.
Yeah.
Were you thinking series parents or the
The one with
the-
Niveen.
the vampire?
Yeah.
Is she a vampire? Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
that story.
Oh,
There was
that.
Snow White in the first one. The Lesser Evil was like sort of
yeah.
Snow White. That one
Oh
I
yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Oh,
The Seven Swans.
No, the Wild Swans.
No, on the comment. I love that cartoon.
I don't know it.
So that's why. No, I felt like this one, like out of the 6 short stories, I picked up 3 fairy tales. I didn't pick like Beauty and the Beast for the first one. So for me, it was like half of the book. So it was like
Oh no, Beauty and the Beast from The Last Wish.
The Last Wish. Okay, then yeah. Forget what I just said. But yeah, no, for me it was this one. I don't know.
I think it's just because I'm not familiar with too many stories. I mean, fairy tales, but that's why I just picked up on that one. What did I say? The Little Mermaid.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
Because
the
it's
only one
the
I got
most
out of this.
famous, I think.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah, absolutely.
100%.
But when it comes to the writing, I genuinely thought the writing was harder to read this time than the first time. Maybe it's my reading moods, but I just, even with the philosophical elements to it, I did not, I wasn't able to immerse myself in the story that much.
Mm.
Yeah, the writing was more difficult for me to get through as well. So
Also,
I was
in
so
the
happy
first
I did it
story,
with the audio.
yeah. Also, in the first story, I just cringed so much when they opened Yennefer's clothes and, exposed her, and then the lion was just staring. I just thought, oh gosh.
The Ballad of the Two Tits. Oh, I know I shouldn't have laughed, but I was giggling and I was like, am I a bad person? I must be, but like, it's just so out of nowhere.
Mm.
That's what I love
Sasha,
about Dandelion, though.
I mean, he provides the comic relief to the stories.
But
Yeah.
he's not like a bad person, which is nice. Like you can laugh at him and like he's a good friend.
Malicious.
He's loyal to a fault. He's not malicious ever. He's just kind of he's definitely like a himbo and a womanizer, but he's kind of innocent. You gotta love him. I like that
And
none
he's
of
got some
his
brains.
ways.
I'm also happy he's got some brains, because usually those kind of characters are being kept dumb as a sidekick, and I'm so happy that he's actually got some brains.
Yeah,
Is it
I agree.
Sasha? Was it you that compared it to Shrek and Donkey?
That was me.
That was yeah. I remember someone on the line was like, that was so perfect because like it still continues to be like that a little bit, and I love it.
Yeah, but the fact that he's not dumb, it makes it. I like that he's not shallow. It makes him easier to read, and that's why I think he's also so likable, because he provides something to the story. Yeah,
You
but
see even more of him in Blood of Elves and like what his past is a little bit, and it's really interesting to see that he's like a really interesting person on his own.
Yeah,
I feel like they all are, actually.
100%.
Majority of them.
Yeah. It doesn't hurt.
With the first story or chapter 1 in the Blood of Elves, I think you're gonna just like the the first 2 books that we read so far. We saw Yennefer and Dandelion, but I think the way they come together in the end, when they've been arguing all this time or they don't like each other, I think it's really nice.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm looking forward to Blood of Elves.
I feel like there's going to be a lot more to discuss. Like I feel like we're probably towards the end of this discussion because Sword of Destiny was just short stories. But Blood of Elves has so many threads that are started that I'm so looking forward to talking about them with you guys.
yeah.
But just a little bit of a warning, because it's an actual book and not more short stories. I think I might forget a lot of it because I started already. It would be. I think it would be wiser for me to wait a little bit because I have such a bad memory. But still, I'll have you to remind me.
Tab it, because it's also quite different from the TV show, so it's not like you can go and compare it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's going to help you actually, because you watch the show, so you're going to be, oh, that's different, that's different. So it's going to like be more memorable in some way. But it's okay. Like we all remember different things. That's what makes the conversation. You're going to pay attention to something. I'm going to pay attention to the other thing. That's
Sasha, I think I'm going to be like you the next round, and I'm going to just take a lot of notes.
I mean, it helps. Like they're not all useful, because like for A Shred of Ice, I wrote feelings and unicorn.
What?
Like,
Oh, the unicorn.
unicorn.
The unicorn.
Unicorn.
They had like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, unicorn.
So I thought they're not always useful, like internal claims, like it's Novigrad, and like Gerald kills monster, not smart creatures, follow the rules, blah blah blah. So it's just like to remind me, like some things, but it's not like in details. Like I'm not writing a paper about them. Like,
I'm the
it's
kind
just
of person that forgets to write it down. I just forget it, and then I'm at the end of the book, and I'm like, yeah, I think I will remember that and that and that, and by the time it's alive, it's gone. And then you
Same.
guys say it, and it's like, oh yeah, I love that bit too, but I kind of forgot about it.
But that's why I would love to actually tab my books, which I used to do, but now I always forget to do it. And when I force myself to do it, I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to tab and stop enjoying the book. I will come back to that later. I will tap it later. But no, it never happens. Writing is like just way faster. I don't know. It's just a habit.
Fair enough.
So yeah.
We didn't talk about Geralt and his mother.
Oh,
Did I miss that?
That was
Oh,
his
no,
mother,
something.
wasn't it?
I mean,
I'm missing
there
that
was,
bit too.
What?
I'm missing that bit too. I
I
know
mean,
there is some mentioning of it in Blood of Elves, but
No,
in this
there
one
was
it's
a
given
healer
out.
who Geralt. I don't think was it his mother. Geralt got sick, and then there was in the last story, and then there was a healer.
Oh,
who
wasn't
came-
it with the visions?
Yeah, with the visions.
Yeah.
And there was a healer. I think that was his mother. Or am I just getting it?
I
completely-
lost all of that. I thought that was Triss at some point. That's how
Yeah.
confused I was
But
because
he
she
says
gave a different
Rosanna.
name.
I thought
Yeah,
she was
I think
mentioned.
he envisioned it first as his mom, and then it turned out to be Tristan in his vision.
in the end of the chapter, he calls her Vicenna, and it ends up being his mother, because she
Yeah.
says that that Vesemir, Vesemir did not give you that name, although it doesn't change or reverse anything either. And basically just implies that she had given him the name before she had given him away to, the
Yeah.
Witchers.
Oh,
Now I'm
I
like,
thought
mom
she was just like
exploding.
okay. So that was her.
Yeah, the healer actually ended
Yeah.
up being her.
Well, I
Wow.
missed.
That flew 10 feet over my head. Oh my god.
Nasha, honestly, a lot of the book was that way for me. But this is the one thing that I can finally say I did not miss.
I fully like finished that chapter. I was like, should I go back and reread it? No. No, not today.
Yeah,
I'm also very curious in what kind of part Mausek will still play in the books. I'm really
Yeah.
curious to that, because in the show his role is rather small, so to speak. So I'm really curious about how that's going to go, though.
Whose role, sorry?
Mausek.
mouse sack.
Who the hell was he?
He was some sort of mentor to Ciri. In the woods as well. There he is as well.
I don't
I
know
forgot
what.
about the details, but I know he's interesting. Like, I'm
I'm-
interested in his character development.
I know he was in The Last Wish. Is he in this book as well?
Yeah, he was in the second Lost story.
Oh, Jesus.
Wait, the second story?
Second Lost.
Oh,
The Sword of Destiny.
Yeah. In the woods. He
So I
was
remember
there.
Frexinet.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fraxinet, that's his story. The story that was told there. That's like the Wild Swans.
Yeah.
Because there is also this big...
Mouse.
Uh, Mouse Sack.
Sorry.
He's also telling about Calanthe, if I'm not mistaken. And about what happened, according to him. Way back when.
Uncle Mouse Sack. Okay, I'm gonna tab that so I don't forget it actually, because I completely missed that.
With
And now
me,
you're
it's
saying it
on
might be
this
important.
page, Mousesack is mentioned.
Yeah, Uncle
Hopefully
Mouse
you'll-
Sack in the person. Yeah.
Like something I love in the Malice series, so the book I just showed you, Valor, is that at the beginning of each book, you have a list of all the characters that are in the books with their relations, like with others, relationship, or if it's their parents, uncle, whatever. I feel like we need that.
Yeah, too. But not whether they
Also-
were deceased or not, because in some books, like the Poppy War, it says whether or not those characters are deceased, like they're dead, and it's like such major spoiler warnings.
No, but
If you
it's
go
not.
and look in the lists,
Yeah, but
with
it's
the
not the
Poppy
case
War,
here. Yeah, but I mean, like in Valor, you're gonna have the relationship where they are before, and then in the next book, it's where they are by the end of this one. So
Oh,
the
yeah.
list every
it
time different,
progresses.
doesn't
That's
spoil.
how Game of Thrones does it too. It's really helpful.
Yeah, I find it very helpful because if you go on the wiki website, you're gonna see if that person's still alive or not. So I avoid that if I have not finished the series or whatever. So, but I feel like that's something, not that we should, but that would be nice to have in longer
Yeah.
series when there are so many characters or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised there's not that and a map. Like the map especially shocked me, but at the very least, like the list of characters, because especially in Blood of Elves, you have all of these, like keeping track of which ruler rules which area, especially if you've played the game, because places like change around and rulers take over, and it's just so confusing. You're
Mm,
so right. Like a character list would be so helpful.
yeah.
Also, when we talked about Mousesack, basically in Sword of Destiny, he does appear after Ciri gets out of Brokilon, and they are attacked by soldiers. And basically, Mousesack then comes, and with him are some dryads, and they save Ciri and the Witcher. But also then Mousesack is the one to take Ciri away when Geralt doesn't want to take her yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So
like some
Ciri
sort
goes
of
with Mousesack.
guardian over.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he's gonna reappear then for sure.
He's I think he's also, you can see him in the TV show. That's why I personally remembered who he is, just because I saw him in the TV show.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know about y'all, but I think
It's a nice time to wrap up.
Yeah.
And I think we can agree. Yeah, my voice is also getting incredibly sore now. That the next one will probably be will probably be early May, most likely, as this
sounds
one got postponed due to me and my voice,
Mhm.
even though it didn't improve. Yeah, the month will be shorter then probably, the reading time. But does it still work for all of you to get it done in time?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Fine with
Well,
me.
I'm done. The problem is going to be keeping me away from the next book.
Judith, Ciri's uncle, the druid, Maisovor, is Mausek. That's how his name is translated from Polish. In English, it's translated as Mausek.
See, I love how in Dutch they actually kept the name. That's something I don't understand. Why do you have to translate names? I mean,
Yeah.
A lot of Western people struggle with Slavic names from experience, so I feel like they have to change it.
But then you have
any idea
fantasy
how
names
to pronounce
that
it,
are
though.
just everywhere. Like
I would just
fantasy
butcher
names
that.
are so different.
I would butcher that. I have no idea how I'd pronounce it.
yeah.
Fair.
So,
Also,
yeah.
Sasha, if you want to start Blood of Elves, just read the first chapter whenever and just hit me up if you want to read one chapter a day.
Yeah, but we're probably gonna wait a little bit so we don't forget about the book by
Yeah. Just let me know when you finish the first chapter.
I will let you know.
I'll be able to tell that I loved it.
I'm very excited to see what you guys think.
Yeah. So far, I'm loving it. I'm currently on, what chapter am I on? I think I'm about to start chapter 6. So that's two chapters.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good.
So yeah, I'm excited.
Great.
And hopefully I can get my Witcher sweater on then, because I can't seem to find it anywhere. But I do have a Witcher sweater. But yeah,
Nice.
we'll see if
Oh,
I can
yeah.
find it by then. Should be doable.
Right, right.
Okay, so we are wrapping it up here then. Okay,
Yay.
Sounds good.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.